Hey, what's up, my friends? It's Carpo here. It's kind of a dark evening in here, so I'm just going to leave it that way. I don't mind. I actually sat down to make this video and I didn't even really want to. I was like, I don't even feel like it. Late at night, I rarely do videos because I'm in chill mode. It's about 11 p.m. here. By now I'm usually, pretty close to asleep, but I was out here doing a little bit of work on my website, getting it back in order and getting that mode, And I came back in the house and I grabbed my little book here. It's funny, it's Carpo book, right? I got it in 2000 and it says Y2K to ? And it's crazy to think it's that old now. I mean, it's only 16 years old, but it says, just random stuff on it. But it's just notes. And it goes way back, to just stupid quotes and ideas and theories and important stuff to me. But it wasn't really a journal. It's like Manly Hall quotes and parts in terms of certain things I've read, all the way up to like plant consciousness and harvesting techniques and Islamic prayer beads and just everything you can imagine. And then earlier today I was... what's that? Oh yeah, it's even got one of my son, my 4-year-old's first picture that he ever drew from 3 years ago. Just a bunch of scribbles. So anyway, I've got this page up here where I just took more notes, and that's what I was going to get to. I'm almost out of paper in this one, but I've got several other journals to fill. And today I was doing some heavy thinking about something that, I don't know, it's always bothered me, which is consumerism. And I don't want to get all preachy about it. And it's an issue that I try not to really delve into too much because I know that so many people are really touchy about the things that they choose to consume in their lives. And an example would be like, well, I've mentioned fancy clothes in the past. And I know that some people like to dress nice, but there's a difference between dressing nice and spending extra money on a brand name just because it's a brand name. It could be just some made in China Tommy Hilfiger crap. Who knows? But the people who have been sucked into the consumerism cycle can be sensitive about it. For example, if I were to say right now, hey, you'd have to be an idiot to go stand in line to buy the new iPhone. Well, I'd be talking about a lot of people. But that's how I feel inside. But it's not their fault. It's not that I think people are idiots. It's that I think that people have fooled themselves into thinking that stuff will make them happy. And even though we know deep down inside, you can't buy love, you can't buy happiness either. And we understand that. But still, we try. And there's no reason that we should always have to get the newest and the best and the greatest. And what's inspired this was earlier I was watching a short video where they were talking about it was a philosophy of Hume. I think it was John Hume. He had a really good philosophy, and it was very similar to the one I have on life. And I didn't, it's not very often that I come across a philosophy that holds similar to the one that I do. Anyhow, I don't remember exactly how that led me into this whole consumption thing, but one of the theories that they talked about during the video, I don't know if it was his or someone else, was that buying stuff, because there was a time, just 3 centuries ago, where nobody had anything more than they needed, except for a very few, right? And you had basic clothes and shelter, and you worked hard, and then all of a sudden we had the ability to buy things like a hairbrush or a mirror. And then people were able to buy sewing machines. And then next thing you know, people were able to buy automobiles. But all of these things had their root in time when the average person couldn't get them. And now we just have to have them. And look, as I understand, having a car, let's say, is an essential part of life. Of course, I haven't had a car in like 2 years. And that's because my wife has a car and we just share it. I don't generally need 2 cars. I know that it would be nice when she's at work to take the kids places, but I can walk the 10, 12 blocks to a school to pick them up and walk back, even if it's raining. I can make an excuse that I have to have a car. And I am looking for one now because it'd be nice for the winter, but we choose as individuals what we think is important and how much stuff we need to have. So the consumerism cycle that we have, the idea is that by buying stuff it creates jobs. So we want something we don't need, but that creates jobs. And what bugs me about that is that eventually money comes into play. And I don't see how people can't realize that having more stuff and creating more jobs, ultimately, it doesn't improve the economy. The economy should always remain the same. We've always had an issue with money and trying to figure out what money is really worth. And this is why we used the gold standard for so long, even though it was faulty and flawed. The idea that a certain ounce of gold was weighed at a certain amount and it was worth a certain amount of money or credit was based on the idea that gold was usually mined at a certain consistent, steady rate throughout history that coincided with the population growth of people. And at least that's what we've been taught. The economics says that really nothing's worth anything unless humans give it value. But we cannot create jobs out of thin air. Consumption can only drop the price of goods over a long term, over a long period of time. The more that we consume, the more details it requires to create those things we consume. The more details, the more resources and time and effort it costs to make these goods, and therefore the more we're depleting it for the future. Short-term gain, we may be able to get something for ourselves. Long-term, it's going to be dangerous and damaging for everybody. We could do a lot more with preserving what we have, but hey, we're humans. We live for 80 or so years, and we try to get as much as we can before we're gone. And that's just the mentality that we've had for so long. People don't realize what inflation is and what determines inflation. Inflation is more than just printing of fiat money. There are all kinds of forgeries going on around the world that are creating problems with inflation and just making our dollar worth less and less. I mean, when I was just 20 years old, a candy bar was like, 35, 40 cents, and now they're like $1. It's just ludicrous, The hidden tax is what inflation is. And quantitative easing during 2008 was a huge issue with that during this banking crisis. The truth is there was no banking crisis. The crisis was that banks made stupid loans and that we ended up bailing them out. And now they're still paying their executives billions of dollars and we're getting nothing out of it. We're getting shafted as always. Still the same old bank problems, But that's part of the system. And they're the ones who have capitalized on this idea that people will borrow money they don't need. And this is what drives consumerism, and this is where the problem lies. It's not in buying extra stuff, it's that people are buying shit they don't need. The way I feel about people in their automobiles is very similar to the way that I feel about people in the iPhones. If you're out leasing a new car every year, that's just ludicrous. There's no reason for that. It's, for you it may be a gain, but the value you're losing on getting an automobile, a lot of people buy new cars and then just trade them in after a couple of years. And they think, well, I work hard, I make however much X amount of money every year, therefore I'm going to get a car that's $100,000. Now, $100,000 car, a lot of people who buy these are people who make $100,000 a year or less. So even at that amount of money, which is pretty good money, you're talking about a year's worth of wages to pay for a car, when you could easily pay a fraction of that, a fifth of that, and have a great car that'll last you 10 years, no problem. And the cost to even replace a transmission or a full-blown head gasket blown, anything, would be much less than spending that amount of money. So there's no real justification in it. The parts cost more, and it's all a status symbol. And what does that status say about you? If you think that a car is who you are. I thought about this earlier, and I thought about guys who drive cool cars. And I always think, there are some really cool cars out there. But when I see them, I don't think the people inside are cool. I think the cars are cool. I think the people inside are trying to use the cars to be cool a lot of the time. But sometimes they just like a fast, cool car. I mean, that's understandable. I would drive one, so I can't judge everybody who drives a cool car as being a not cool person or trying to be cool because of the car. I'm just saying that the car is what's cool, not the person. And the same thing goes for the clothes people wear or the jewelry. Why is a person cool because they have more money than another? They're not, and we know that. Society knows that. But others haven't figured that out. This thing with, I don't follow any gossip, crap, but I heard it on, somebody mentioned that Kim Kardashian was, in France, and she got ripped off, and Kanye had to, cancel his show, and she got robbed for something like $7 million worth of jewels while he was playing a show. I'm thinking, what kind of dumb shit travels with $7 million worth of anything? I mean, and why does she have that much money worth of stuff? Of course, because her douchebag husband Kanye, and her, these people get famous because they're famous. Kanye thinks he's this great artist. That's a whole other story. But the point being, this is what people follow. These people follow Kim Kardashian, and it blows my mind that they think that that's okay, that a person has that much money and acts that way and is that shallow. And it really, it's sad because it's a reflection on us as people, and there's a lot of people who are into that gossip and bullshit. It's as if watching other people's lives helps them to not have to worry about their own. And I can only say so much about that one, but we can't deny desire. We can't deny that we want things. We can't deny ourselves good things. So I'm in no way saying, well, we shouldn't enjoy life, that we shouldn't embrace every moment of it and try to get fun, good things. But what I've realized in my life is that there have been times when I've made pretty decent money, and my wife and I were both kind of harmonizing with some good cash. What I think of as good cash, which is like $40 an hour. And we were doing really well and buying cool stuff, and I realized I didn't need any of it, didn't want any of it. And I've made much less in the last year in my, herb business, but I'm happier because I'm doing what I like to do. And I think that's what's the most important, is that I don't feel like I have to buy stuff to be happy. I'm still using my crappy old camera, which it's broken, so I'm seeing myself upside down in the thing right now. But it's just a little Lumix, Panasonic handheld camera that I've always used. I'd love to buy a video camera, but, I don't. The biggest thing I bought lately was like this metal detector that I just ordered for a couple $100 because I've always wanted one for, ever. But these are things I'll use, not things I'm just buying. There's people I know who will buy a $200 pair of jeans and feel nothing about it. They're making really good money, and I'm like, well, I'm guilty about buying something that might pay itself back pretty soon, but it's because I've lived frugally, and I know what it's like to be poor. I get it, I've been there. The only things I have left here, we have spite for what we don't have. And this is a common thing we see in people who are angry towards things that they don't have. And in the case of me talking about rich people or people who spend too much money, it isn't the case here that I have spite for that because it's something I don't have. I know if I put my mind to it, I could probably be a millionaire, but I'd have to break some of my own values to get there, and I won't do that. I don't want to be a millionaire. I don't want the obligations, nor do I want the responsibility of being a leader or, a politician, because it's just bullshit. I have a life to live, and I want to be able to be a philosopher first. And that's what's important to me. The more you have to protect, the more you have to lose. Okay? That means that the more borders that we have set up, and the more rules and regulations we have, and the more stuff we have, then the more we have to protect it. And it takes more energy to hold on to the things that you've gained than it does to just let them go. And materials and goods and money, They should be like water. They should just flow and not be stopped up like a dam. And I know people hear this and they think, oh, that's just nonsense, but it's true. Life has a flow, and money has a flow. They call it the flow of money, not the dam of money where you hoard it, and definitely not waste it on stupid things when it could be helping people. The more people that realize this, the more people can do good things with their money, instead of wasting it. Or just not buy into the money in the first place, so you don't have to be part of that, credit system that everybody gets sucked into, because it's unfortunate that people do. And ultimately, we get to the question of, people will call me like a socialist sometimes, or one guy said earlier, a socialist communist. Well, I understand that people feel that way because I mentioned that I support Bernie Sanders. Well, on the same token, I also didn't mention that I support free trade. I support freedom of business. And what I've found is that is a cognitive dissonance. Anybody who believes that business should have free trade, but also believes that we should have no socialist programs, is relying on businesses to support their own local economies. Now, this means that we're depending, if we were to eliminate government and eliminate tax money, then we're left to pay for our own cities and roads. And you know what? For some areas that would work great. And for other areas, they would fall into disrepair and disarray. The rich would move into tighter and tighter groups so they could afford their own roads. And this is why so many groups want a non-socialist type atmosphere. We are a socialist nation whether we like it or not. We still can have capitalist values and have socialist programs. And this is what folks don't realize. We can have a certain amount of freedom for companies, and they shouldn't be penalized for making money. They shouldn't be penalized for being innovative, because capitalism is innovation. And that's what brings new things. And this is why the U.S. was so successful at innovating so much, is because we had the ability to be recognized. A person could go out, step out of college and make millions of dollars, or not even go to college and make millions of dollars. That's the point. You could make anything you want and be anything you want. But that American dream was lost because corporate greed ended up consolidating so many of our smaller companies that many of the entrepreneurs were left holding the bag. All of us understand how this works. Anybody who's worked for themselves knows that you get drowned out by big business. I was trying to build my own cabinets, but Home Depot can do them for a quarter of the price, making custom moldings, or making cool trinkets or necklaces. People who make hemp jewelry, China started producing it in bulk. And the thing is, we can't keep up with the economy and we blame China for it. But it's not China, it's us. It's our own fault because we want more stuff. And we want more and more and more stuff. And so it's those very socialist programs that people are complaining about that have helped them to educate themselves to the point where they can see what's going on and that they can go out and work for themselves. I think most of the people who scream socialist, I'd bet at least 90% of them went to school in this country. If they're Americans crying about socialism and you went to a school, then you were using a socialist program to get where you are right now. And I'll tell you what, if you went to a private school, that's great. That means your parents could afford it, and the rest of ours couldn't. So, there are a lot of poor people in this country, and we could just leave them out in the dust by doing things like abolishing the Health Care Act. Everyone's complaining because there's so many problems, and rates were raised. But you know what? It also helped 20 million Americans who couldn't get insured. And I was one of them who was able to benefit from that. And I paid into the tax system like all the rest of the people. And I'm living in this economy. I'm putting money out there through the taxes, gas tax, road tax, all the things that we use. And it's okay to realize that we should be able to get back for that, and that it's not always abused, and that the middle class is often harmed worse than the lower class, because a person who's dirt poor can apply for many federal grants and food stamps. A person like me who works for myself, I make just enough to where, let's say I don't qualify because my wife and I make too much to qualify for state food stamps or for whatever we might apply for. Yet we still aren't making it nearly enough to pay $1,000 a month for our 5 family to have insurance for 5 people or more. I mean, that's low. I mean, it can be very expensive. And so on top of paying high insurance rates because we don't have it through our workplace, and a lot of the people who say that healthcare isn't necessary, shouldn't be, a socialist thing, well, a lot of those people get it through their workplace, because you don't hear people complaining about it when their workplace doesn't provide it, because that's a really difficult thing. And when you work for yourself, it is very expensive if it's not regulated, and regulation takes a certain approach to it. So they're all delicate subjects, and money and healthcare. But a healthy society is a productive society, and that means that if we want to innovate in the future and have a happier society, we have to have a little bit of socialism, but we still have to have enough capitalism to enjoy what we have. But stop spending our money on stupid shit that we don't need. Peace out, everybody. I'll talk to you.